Hi, good evening. Welcome to my daily live session on various tools and methods for execution excellence picked up randomly from my toolkit. My name is Dinakar. I am the founder of Samuthana and the inventor of DoHow for changing mindset and culture. So let me directly dive into whatever I've been speaking. And last week on Friday, I spoke about learning to learn essence, and that was quite intense and a lot of what should I say, spirituality and so many things involved in that. So I hope you liked it and had a nice weekend. And today I'd introduce you to the topic which I'm going to talk, which is about A3 problem solving. Before I go, a very quick recap on what I spoke on Friday. It's about the learning to learn essence, which is mainly the uh, way the subconscious mind, conscious, and the superconscious mind would work when it comes to a routine, where there are totally four phases. One is the reminder, then a routine which is executed, which is the execution phase, and then a reward for having executed a routine, and finally a reinforcement to continue executing the same routine. So there's the four stages of any action that we do, and that can be identified in subconscious, conscious, and superconscious stages of our mind. And that was the very brief introduction of L2L Essence, which I spoke about, and this is something which I had thought of and developed way early on in my consultancy journey. So let me now directly jump on to today's topic, which is all about A3 problem solving. So what is A3 problem solving? I'm sure you would have heard of what problem solving is. Problem solving is basically to find a solution to a problem. It's as simple as that. Now, when you have to find a solution to a problem, there are ways of doing it in a very scientific manner, in which case there are basically five different stages, five stages of problem solving, which is to first define the problem, describe the problem, to really understand where the problem is occurring so that we can narrow down to the problem. That is the first stage. And the second one would be to measure, to understand where do we stay today, what is the actual problem, to really understand the extent of the problem. It may be that somebody is making a mountain of a molehill, which is not really what one should be doing. And therefore, to understand what is the extent of the problem, so one need to measure it, collect the data. That is basically the data collection phase. And once that is done, this could be either done after understanding that there is a problem, or in case there is already data available, one could use that data, pick up the data, and then start collecting the data, collating the data as part of the measurement phase. And then comes the analysis phase. And analysis phase, we're trying to understand what is the root cause. And when we do the root cause analysis, multiple tools are used. The most basic one which I can think of is preparing a Ishikawa diagram or a fishbone diagram or a mind map to understand what are the possible causes. Once that is done, then for each of those causes that you have identified, it's very important to look at the seven stages of assessment of chakras, which I had explained sometime earlier, to really look at how these each of these causes are being treated in the organization or in a particular system. The first level would be to identify it. Of course, we have identified it. That's how we identified that as a cause. The second is to make sure that it is verifiable, in which case there is a standard available for that particular cause. When I say cause, if somebody says temperature is a possible cause, is there a standard or a specification available for what temperature it should be for us to get the ideal outcome? Or if it is, let us say, something to do with training, then what is the level of training that is required? Something to do with competency, what kind of competencies are required? If something it is to do with the force of fixing, for example, and you need to identify what force is allowed to fix, in such a way create a standard, so that that standard can become with that standard we can verify it. We can identify whether all the causes we have identified in the cause and effect diagram are really contributing to the problem or not. Moment they're out of the specification, then there is a risk. Again, it need not be that when something is out of the specification, then it has directly influenced and contributed to the problem, because the systems are extremely complex and there are multiple influencing factors. It's possible that the specification of a particular cause was just like that, assigned very tightly so that nothing would happen, nothing would go wrong. And in reality, it really went out slightly outside the specification, and that really didn't mean that the component or the non-conformity did exist or did not exist. Therefore, it cannot always be concluded that is the cause. But anyway, so it's important to understand that we can verify it. Next is we should be able to measure it. When I say measure it, if you're talking about training, like I said, to understand where the person is trained, for that there's some kind of an examination, testing, or some kind of a validation should be there. So measurability is extremely important. After it is being measured, the next level is to make sure that it is being reported. That means these causes are being tracked on a daily basis. Then we can see the trend. We can understand if anything got changed. The very classical thing is, in one batch everything was fine, the second batch the problem occurred. That is very, very classical. Second classical thing is, I was manufacturing it at a particular setting, and the setting got changed, so the problem occurred. That's the next part of the root cause analysis, to understand if there is a report going on. From the report, can we look at any trend? Then after that, to check whether it is being governed. That means, is there some kind of a system in place, or do we need to put a system in place for governing? And after the governing is done, to check if it is capable. That means whatever specification that we have achieved, we have defined for a standard, is the actual cause within that specification limit to a level of Six Sigma or not. Six Sigma I spoke about during the control chart discussion. And then finally, whether it is predictable or not. That means the particular cause is totally under control. We have dominated it. We have been able to understand how it behaves, and therefore we can control it. So these 7 levels for each cause we need to identify in the Ishikawa diagram, and after that do various analysis and various tests. You could also use the design of experiments, or popularly what is known as DOE, to really create multiple 2 factorial experiments, and then create and do the analysis of the variance, etc., which is called as ANOVA. And then you come to the root cause. And once the root cause is there, validate it by simulating the problem. That means once the root cause is identified, we need to make sure that the same cause is once again replicated, so that the problem then occurs. That means we know that that is the root cause. For example, if there is a puncture in the tire, it's very simple. Imagine that there is a puncture in the tire. You know that there is a hole, and moment you close that hole and check whether the pressure is dropping. If it is not dropping, then you know that is the problem. Something like that, so that you can ensure that the cause which you have found out is really the cause. That is the next one. And once that is done, then we can create the corrective action and the preventive action, and make sure that the improvements are done. That is the I phase, DMAIC. And finally, to look at C. C is a control. How do you control it? To make sure that some control document is updated. I spoke about that the other day, to really ensure that some kind of a document, it could be a policy, guideline, a standard operating procedure, instruction, a specification, a standard, tolerances, something gets updated, so that this learning from this particular problem solving gets integrated in the system. So these are the 5 phases of problem solving. A3 problem solving sheet basically talks about describing all these 5 phases on a single A3 sheet. Just listen to me once again. On a single A3 sheet. A3 sheet is a little bigger than an A4 sheet, but still it's not very big at all. So if you have to do all this, then it is important for us to be very, very clear as to what we're going to write. And there should be an extremely, what should I say, structured process of problem solving. And the next thing is, there should be a tremendous amount of focus, so that a lot of noise and clutter which is there in any problem situation, with a lot of emotions running and a lot of drama in a problem situation, all that gets filtered out. And we only focus on the bare minimum. And this A3 problem solving sheet is something very interesting, because that is something which can be used even for strategy deployment, not only for problem solving the way I described, the scientific problem solving. One could use it for strategy deployment. One could use it for target deployment, to really ask as to why are we deploying a target. One could use for a project, for example. Let us say I want to increase the capacity of a line, in which case I want to go in for new machines and then a new set of investments. I could use a A3 problem solving sheet. The core principle is the entire story is it's an entire storybook or a storyline is compressed into a A3 sheet, not by reducing the font size. That's again something which is not allowed. It's by having a font size which can be easily read from a distance of let us say about 2 meters, so that people could possibly pin it on a pin board, and there could be a standing meeting where others can see what is being written on that. So therefore the font size should be good enough for people to read from a distance of 2 meters, but the content should be complete and thorough. And if that has to happen, then we should be only using that content which is extremely relevant, extremely what should I say, necessary for that particular problem and for that particular situation, for that particular context. So that's what A3 problem solving sheet is all about. I'm sure you would have used that. If not, try doing it. Try condensing whatever you do into an A3 size sheet. Then you get a lot of clarity. That's the wisdom which I have learned. Moment you try to condense everything into a small document, then you get a lot of clarity, and that clarity is something which is extremely important to be able to explain a situation in a very simple manner. I remember when I was trying to define the roles of the international production network in Bosch. We had close to about 24 or 25 locations worldwide, and about 5 R&D locations, 24 manufacturing locations, then sales offices throughout the world. So my job was to really see if I can define some kind of a roles and responsibilities using what is called as RACIC. I don't know whether you've heard of that. RACIC stands for responsibility. That means who is responsible, who gets the information, and who is going to support a particular activity. And support is basically something which is passive, where he's available there in case somebody wants, they can use that support resource. And then who is going to approve the particular activity once the responsible person has completed a task, who's going to approve it, who's going to be supporting it, and who's going to get something only for information, that is the I. And the C is who's going to collaborate. Collaborate is something which is active participation in the particular task. If it's a team, then multiple departments could be collaborating. That's called as RACIC. So I did a RACIC and then listed out all activities in the international production network. And can you imagine what happened? I came up with a Excel file with, I think, close to about 12,000 lines, 1,200 lines, sorry, not 1,200 lines of activities and tasks. And to try to make that into a procedure and get it rolled out was really humongous. And then I basically started using the Excel sheet itself and then tried to summarize it. Then it took quite some time in bringing it down to maybe about 4 sheets, which was about 60 odd lines in an Excel sheet. And that discovery of trying to bring it down, trying to consolidate into the bare minimum, because a lot of times we have got a lot of effects which are described together. But then once you understand what is the sequence of the relationships, that means some particular activity would be resulting to some other activity, and that would result into some other effect. And if that can be understood, then we can only work at the basic level, or the basic element. And once that is described, all the other things also get addressed. That's something which I learned. So I'm sure you also would have had similar experiences. Please do share in case you have anything of that kind which is going to be interesting to all of us. Otherwise, I wish you all the very best. I come to the end of today's discussion. And let me give you a peek into what I would be talking tomorrow. Tomorrow, again, another randomly chosen tool, like I always have been doing. Tomorrow's topic would be on SWOT analysis. I think you would have understood and heard of this SWOT analysis. So let me give you my take on SWOT analysis. It's a very popular tool. I think many of you would have been using it or have used it. So that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. So till then, see you, and all the best. For those of you in India, have a nice evening. For those of you outside India, have a great day ahead. And see you tomorrow, more or less the same time, 8:30 Indian Standard Time, with a different topic. This time, it is about SWOT analysis. Thanks so much, and goodbye.